Ever since returning at All Out 2022, MJF has been unstoppable. He became the AEW World Champion. He main evented one of the biggest, if not the biggest wrestling show in pro wrestling history. He went from the most despicable man on the roster to the most loved. However, who is going to put that dagger in MJF? Who is going to stop the run of the devil? That's what we're here to talk about today. Welcome to the Wrestling Universe channel. My name is Cosk, and today we are going to be listing 5 names who could dethrone Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Number 5, Switchblade Jay White. Now the first pick I'm going to mention is the Switchblade Jay White. This is a really interesting one because it really shows how far Jay White has developed in Collision that he's even in the conversation. He's a great talent, he is a phenomenal talent, and if you've watched his New Japan work, you will have known that before his AEW run. But it really felt, when he did join AEW, that he was going to be slotted into a mid-card, upper mid-card scene for at least the initial few months, year of his run. He wasn't really doing much of note, it really felt like they were misusing him, until he went to Collision and became arguably the top heel of the show. He leads Bullet Club Gold alongside Juice Robinson and the Guns, and I really feel with the AEW World Championship on him, he could take the company by storm. Jay White could be the AEW World Champion, the Guns maybe could win each set of tag titles, Juice Robinson could win a singles championship, whether that be Ring of Honor, New Japan, AEW. There's options in the land of AEW to win championships. And to have Bullet Club Gold hold all the gold would be pretty interesting. I feel like usually I'm not a fan of people holding all the gold because you put all of your stories into one unless they're top names. But for this specific scenario, I feel like it could work. I feel like you have enough championships to let some maybe lower championships go to Robinson and the Guns. And I feel like Jay White versus MJF could be a money-making match. They could bring out the very best in each other. The promos, the matches, have Jay White and Adam Cole have a match before the MJF match. You could do some phenomenal stuff between Jay White and MJF. And Jay White's title run would be something very, very special. Number 4, CM Punk. Now this one is more of a discussion than it is a suggestion. Do I personally think CM Punk should dethrone MJF? Personally, I wouldn't be completely against it, but I feel like there's better options. But I thought it was worth mentioning because that's the feud they're building towards. Ever since Punk returned, he's introduced the Real World Championship, and it seems like he's set for a collision, pun intended, with MJF. Do I think he's going to dethrone him? I think there's a very good chance. I think there's pros and cons to that. On one hand, Punk never got his world title run. He had world title runs, but he didn't have a reign with them. He got injured in the first one, he got injured and suspended in the second one before he could really get going. So you can make the argument that Punk deserves, or maybe not deserves, but it would be good for the company, for their top star CM Punk, or one of their top stars, to become the world champion, especially as a heel. However, you could also make the argument that CM Punk may be too injury prone, maybe too prone to getting a suspension. He's quite controversial right now, which controversy creates cash because it creates suspensions. And I don't think you want to risk it. So, personally, I thought it would be worth discussing whether CM Punk should become the champion. But I think there are better names, personally. Number 3, Swerve Strickland. We're gonna move on to Swerve now, number 3, and this is a very intriguing pick. Because Swerve is not the biggest star, he's mid-card, upper mid-card in AEW. But this comes down to personal preference and what I see in Swerve Strickland personally. And what I see is a potential superstar. Now you could make the argument he's not he's not in the position yet. He may not be ready for that world title run. There's others who are ready, who could win that world title, but I think if you want to get Swerve ready, all he has to do is get that 1, 2, 3. You get a good story with MJF, you have him beat MJF, and there you have it. There's your story. And I think Swerve can make it work. I think Swerve can be a fantastic world champion if given the chance. He's not my first pick necessarily, but I think he's up there. I think Swerve as world champion could be great. You have the Mogul Embassy surrounding him. They could kind of take over the company. I feel like there's a lot of fun stuff you could do with Swerve as world champion. I do think AEW should wait a little bit, maybe experiment with the International Championship, experiment with the TNT Championship before going for that world. But if AEW want to go all the way with Swerve Strickland, I feel a feud with MJF is what could bring him to that level. If it was anyone else but MJF, I would not suggest this. But MJF and Swerve I think would be a fantastic feud, and I think MJF could elevate Swerve Strickland to the level his talents deserve. Number 2, Malachi Black. It feels like ever since Malachi entered AEW, it's only been a matter of time before he wins the world title. He was brought into the company as a major star, squashing Cody Rhodes, and while he fell down the card, I feel like he's really picked himself up in recent months. Ever since the Elite feud, I'd say, they beat the Elite for the Trios title. They've been one of the top heel acts on Collision. And Malachi, I feel, is a world champion level guy. He has the aura. He could bring something unique to the world title that we haven't really seen before. I feel like a Malachi world title run could be very, very fun stuff. I feel like an MJF versus Malachi feud could be great stuff too. But I'm more going to focus on the run here, and I think this run could elevate Malachi to levels he hasn't been before in AEW. But unlike Swerve, where you can make the argument that he's not particularly ready for it, I think Malachi's ready. I think Malachi is fully ready. He's been in the company for a few years now. I think it's time to pull the trigger on main event Malachi. And what a better way to do it than for him to target MJF. I do think you just have a few months of feuding with some other main event guys. I will say that. I don't want it to get confused. I don't think Malachi should immediately go up to the world title scene. We're talking about who dethroned MJF. It doesn't have to be tomorrow. It doesn't have to be next month. It could be in 6 months. It could be in 9 months. I think MJF's going to have a long run. And I think after a few main event feuds where Malachi starts getting some big wins, you could elevate him there easily. It won't even really feel like you're elevating him, because I think he's only a main event feud away from being in the conversation. So I would have Malachi dethrone MJF. I think he's probably my second biggest pick. Maybe third behind Jay White. My first is going to be the next one, but Malachi is one of my strongest picks to dethrone MJF. I think it's perfect. I think MJF and Malachi could have a very fun feud, and I think Malachi as world champion could be the best Malachi Black we've ever seen. Number 1, Will Ospreay. This is my main pick. This list wasn't necessarily from best to worst, but I wanted to save the best for last, and Will Ospreay to me is the best option to dethrone MJF. Now this is a big if, because it all depends on if he signs with AEW. He's been rumored to sign for a while. He's currently signed with New Japan. His contract's up in a few months, maybe half a year, give or take. And I think he's the guy. They've portrayed him super strong every appearance he's made in AEW. He's beaten Kenny Omega on pay-per-view. He's beaten Chris Jericho on pay-per-view. And I feel like an Ospreay MJF feud, especially if it culminates in a year's time at Wembley Stadium. And yes, I am suggesting MJF holds that world title for another year because he's that damn good. I feel like MJF could pull it off. I feel like MJF could hold that world title for forever, and it would be fun still because he's MJF. But if they decide to go the long route or even the short route, because I feel like Will Ospreay's ready now, but preferably the long route, preferably in London at Wembley, Will Ospreay's the guy. You want All In to be your WrestleMania? You bring in Ospreay, portray him like you've been portraying him in his appearances as a New Japan guy, but even better, keep building that aura, because to me these are the two most well-booked guys in AEW if you just look at their wins. And yeah, you could have MJF versus Will Ospreay main event All In 2, where Ospreay wins in London. The reaction is going to be a bit weird, but hell, it will be worth it. I'd rather he'll get cheered by 80,000 people than get booed by 2,000. So, Will Ospreay is my main pick. I think Ospreay is one of the best in the world, and I feel like he could do that world title justice and continue on the great work that we've been seeing in the MJF run. Continue to build its prestige with a Will Ospreay world title run. I feel like it's only a matter of time before Ospreay wins a world title in North America, and I think it's going to be the AEW World Championship. But what do you guys think? Thank you for joining me. If you like the content, subscribe for more. My name's Cosk. See you later.